The iPhone 16 Pro is the best iPhone money can buy, with not only all of Apple's flagship new features and all their latest camera tech, but also a handful of genuinely pro-tier use case features that make this iPhone the most unnecessarily powerful iPhone so far for most people. Today we're going to talk about all of its new features and changes and whether you should actually buy this iPhone or not. So this year's iPhone 16 lineup is particularly interesting because almost every new flagship feature is available on both the 16 Pro and the standard 16. The new camera control button that allows you to quickly open up the camera app, snap photos, and adjust camera options is available on both the Pro line and the standard line of the iPhone 16, which is something Apple could have easily reserved for the Pros exclusively. Now, in terms of the actual usability of this clickable and touch-sensitive button, it's great for just opening up the camera app and using it as a shutter button to quickly snap photos, but actually trying to adjust any camera options from the camera control interface is frankly just more cumbersome than using the existing on-screen controls we've had all along, so hopefully Apple improves this aspect of it with future software updates. Full Apple Intelligence support is also coming to the Pro iPhone 16s and the standard iPhone 16s, which is Apple's upcoming very extensive set of AI features that are going to be rolling out throughout the remainder of this year and into next year. Even Apple's second generation photographic styles is available on the Pro line of iPhone 16 and the standard line of iPhone 16, which allows you to have very granular control over the way your photos will look thanks to a new image processing pipeline Apple is using on the iPhone 16 models. Again, providing you with a lot more control over the way the photos will look in comparison to any previous iPhone. Yet another feature that Apple again could have easily held back for only the Pros. This addresses one of the biggest complaints a lot of people have had with the iPhone camera from the last several years, being the fact that the default photo processing mechanism is very heavily stylized, which not everybody is a fan of. So the fact that all the features I just mentioned are available on both the Pro line of the iPhone 16 and the standard line of the iPhone 16 leaves only a few genuinely pro-grade features exclusively for the 16 Pro. So diving into those, one of the most noteworthy being the 4K 120 frames per second video recording capability, which allows you to capture gorgeous high-resolution slow-motion videos with a lot more quality than the previous maximum of 1080p video recording for slow-motion videos on every other iPhone. You can even adjust the frame rate of a 4K 120 frames per second video after shooting it, which is great if you're unsure if you want to use the footage in slow motion or not. And while the main camera lens on every Pro-tier iPhone from the last several years have all been 48 megapixels, now on the 16 Pro for the first time, the ultra-wide camera lens also gets an upgrade to 48 megapixels as well, in comparison to the 12 megapixels that it is on the standard iPhone 16 and every previous iPhone, making for sharper and more detailed wide-angle shots and super up-close macro shots. Also, all three rear camera lenses on the 16 Pro have a new anti-reflective coating, which will hopefully help reduce lens flare. The standard iPhone 16 only has this new anti-reflective coating on the main lens, not its secondary ultra-wide lens. And I've been a video content creator long enough to know that a lot can go wrong with file storage, from file corruption to accidentally deleting files to system crashes. And that's where today's sponsor, Wondershare Recover It, comes in. Recover It can completely recover your lost videos, photos, audio files, emails, and more from hard drives, SD cards, crashed computers, and even NAS and Linux systems. It can also repair corrupted videos, photos, and other files. Using Recover It is as simple as can be. You just select the drive you want to scan, and it'll find all the recoverable files. Recover It supports data recovery from 2,000 plus types of storage devices in 1,000 plus file formats. And the latest Recover It version 13 provides a host of new features and improvements, such as upgraded data recovery for external storage devices, which includes improved SD card and external drive compatibility, including brands such as SanDisk's, Kingston, Seagate, and Western Digital. It also supports professional recovery for Canon, Sony, DJI, GoPro, Insta360, and more, with a 99.5% recovery success rate on external devices. So if you're interested in Wondershare Recover It, you can download it for free and try it out by clicking on the link in the video description down below. Big thanks to Wondershare Recover It for sponsoring this video. Now, of course, as has always been the case with Pro versus standard iPhones, the 16 Pro features that additional third telephoto zoom lens where the standard 16 does not. The telephoto zoom lens on the 16 Pro enables up to 5 times optical zoom. However, the standard iPhone 16 supports up to 2 times optical zoom just using the main lens, thanks to it being bumped up to 48 megapixels for the past few generations, which is going to be plenty of zoom for most people. So having that third dedicated telephoto zoom lens is not as necessary as it was 5 years ago, for example, as the main camera lenses on the standard iPhones have improved enough to the point where they probably have more than enough zoom for most people. And here's some photos taken on the 16 Pro, the standard iPhone 16, and the previous generation standard iPhone 15 and 14 for comparison. By the way, no photographic styles edits are applied to any of these photos. They're all using the default standard settings to keep things even and fair. And here's a front-facing photo taken with all these devices as well. And also here's a 4K 60 frames per second video shot on all of them. And the 16 Pro is powered by Apple's latest and greatest A18 Pro chip, while the standard iPhone 16 is powered by Apple's latest, just standard A18 chip. The A18 Pro chip has a 6-core GPU, while the A18 chip has a 5-core GPU. So the 16 Pro with the A18 Pro chip will run high-performance games a little bit smoother and faster, and this slightly more powerful chip will also help out in situations when you're pushing your iPhone to its limit in terms of graphical performance, but that's not going to be anything that you're actually going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, most likely. The A18 Pro chip also has components and attributes that enable some of the Pro-exclusive features that we've had for several generations of Pro iPhones by now, such as the always-on display and the ProMotion 120Hz display capabilities, ProRes video recording, and those faster USB 3 data transfer speeds. But again, you'd be very hard-pressed to notice a difference in actual performance between the A18 Pro chip in the 16 Pro and the A18 chip in the standard 16 doing anything you'd actually be doing day-to-day on your iPhone. So in terms of display size, the 16 Pro gets an ever so slightly larger 6.3-inch display in comparison to the 6.1-inch display of the standard iPhone 16 and every previous Pro and standard iPhone from the last several years, which have all been 6.1 inches. And it also features thinner bezels, which is definitely noticeable and looks quite stunning. I love the fact that we've basically reached a full edge-to-edge experience with the 16 Pro. In terms of comfortability, the size difference is barely noticeable to me. It honestly doesn't feel that different than the standard 16 or any previous Pro iPhone or standard iPhone, as again, it's just not that substantial of a display size increase, and also the fact that the bezels got a little bit smaller, allowing the screen-to-body ratio to improve without the footprint of the device increasing that drastically. The 16 Pro features a 3,582 mAh battery that provides very good battery performance, which was reflected in my own battery testing. The standard 16 has a slightly smaller battery capacity of 3,561 mAh, which also provides pretty much just as good battery performance. Battery performance definitely should not be a factor in deciding between the Pro iPhone 16 and the standard iPhone 16, as they both, again, basically have the same performance, and it's really good on both. And either of them will probably get you through a day with typical usage for sure. And in terms of charging speed, both the Pro and standard iPhone 16 models now support up to 25-watt wireless charging if you use Apple's new MagSafe charger, as opposed to the previous 15-watt maximum that every previous iPhone has had. However, the 16 Pro exclusively also supports faster wired charging, now up to 30 watts, as opposed to the previous maximum of 25 watts that every other iPhone has had. So just an ever so slightly faster wired charging capability with the 16 Pro here. And the 16 Pro here now features 4 studio quality microphones that feature better audio quality than any previous iPhone, and this enables a neat new feature in voice memos that allows you to layer tracks on top of one another, which is going to be especially useful for musicians that, for example, might have a guitar track that they want to layer a vocal track on top of. This is definitely a feature that I think is appropriate to be reserved for the Pros here, as it is quite useful for, again, certain people that will have a use case for it, but something that most people probably won't need. But unfortunately, this feature isn't available yet. It's going to be coming in a future software update for the 16 Pro. So it's definitely disappointing that so many of the features Apple announced aren't available yet and are coming in future software updates, but obviously we'll just have to see how they are when they roll out a little bit later on here. So Apple also released another handful of audio-related features for video recording, which is actually coming to the Pro line of iPhone 16 and the standard line of iPhone 16, including wind noise reduction for videos and also spatial audio capture for videos, which creates a more immersive experience when listening back using AirPods, Apple Vision Pro, or your home sound system. And the biggest of these being Audio Mix, which uses machine learning to separate the voices of people talking from background noise, enabling some really neat new options, my favorite of which being Studio Mode, which attempts to make it sound like you're in a soundproofed recording studio. Take a listen. So here's a recording taken on the 16 Pro just in a standard room, not soundproofed at all, in standard mode. And now I'm going to turn on studio mode and you can instantly hear the difference. A lot less reverb, a lot less background noise, and it sounds more like I'm in a recording studio environment. So as much as it's far from perfect, I think this will be useful for people that are into content creation but don't have access to a soundproofed room or professional audio equipment. So the displays on both the Pro line of iPhone 16 and the standard line of iPhone 16 can now get dimmer than than any previous iPhone, all the way down to 1 nit, which will be great for using your iPhone in dark environments. And as you can see here, compared to an older iPhone, you can definitely notice the difference. And also, the front display glass on both the Pro line of iPhone 16 and the standard line of iPhone 16 gets Apple's latest generation ceramic shield, which is 50% tougher than the first generation ceramic shield. So hopefully the iPhone 16 models will be more resilient against shattering. So as you're noticing here, almost everything that I'm talking about is available on, again, both the Pro line and the standard line of iPhone 16. It's really just a few of those niche pro-grade use case features that are exclusive to the 16 Pro, except for the two bigger differences, of course, being the cameras. The 16 Pro does have that additional third telephoto zoom lens that enables up to 5 times optical zoom, and you also get the ProMotion 120Hz display refresh rate on the 16 Pros. I mentioned those two specifically because those are probably the two biggest changes for a lot of people that might be a deal breaker between the standard iPhone and the Pro iPhone, but I just think for most people, even those should not be, unless you're really into photography or just really care about having a high display refresh rate. But I just think for most people, the optical 2x zoom on the standard iPhone 16 is going to be plenty of zoom, and the 60Hz display refresh rate is something that a lot of us here in the tech community care a lot about and maybe lose a little bit of perspective in terms of the average consumer, as most people don't even know what that is and honestly don't care. So with the 16 Pro here starting at $999 and the standard iPhone 16 is starting at $799, unless one of the Pro exclusive features is very important to you, I would recommend going for the standard 16 if you're looking for a new iPhone right now, as there's simply not enough of a difference between these phones to warrant spending that extra $200, again, unless you have a specific reason that you want to, or if you just prefer having the latest and greatest. But at the end of the day, I think the standard iPhone 16 is the best value for most people within the iPhone 16 line. I like the fact that Apple is starting to make the Pros feel like genuinely Pro phones, not just holding back a few features from the standard iPhones and then slapping the Pro name on it. They're starting to feel like devices that only Pros need. But let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 16 Pro in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll catch you in the next one.